scooch over here. Hello, Allison Verhalen here, coming at you live for today's Marketing Monday. It is Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday after Thanksgiving. I hope you all had an awesome holiday. I know I did. I was just cleaning my stove this morning because it was an absolute wreck from all of the pies and cranberry sauce that I was making. So now it looks all nice and clean. So let's get to it. So today I want to talk to you about your content marketing metrics, right? So I'm always talking about the importance of incorporating a strategy into your content. Don't just create content and put it out there and just assume it's going to do what you want. You have to actually measure it. And yes, this includes doing research on the front end before you create any content, right? This means that you have to do your keyword research and see what's trending and see what people are looking for. And see what's really what people are interested in that has not already been covered to death and not seeing that content everywhere else, right? So you have to do that first, but you also have to then measure the results. So some of that work can tell you, as well as far as distribution, you have to figure out where your audience is, where you have to spend time online in order to get in front of them. You can do that to an extent. Research can tell you a lot, just being like, hey, this is my target audience. Where are they hanging out online, right? What keywords are they searching? That can tell you a lot. But as you build your audience, you're going to find that there are some unique things about your audience that don't really apply to like general rules, right? So a lot of that information that we find is like, these are the general rules of like, these are, the people on Facebook, and these are the people on Instagram, and these are the people on TikTok, right? So there's some generalizations there, but there are always going to be people who don't quite fit the mold. And if your audience does not fit the mold and you're not measuring the results of your marketing efforts to determine whether or not they fit that mold, right? Then you could be missing out. You might hit the target, but it's not quite a bullseye, right? It's just off center. So we're going to talk about some of the content marketing metrics that you need to drive results for your business. We're going to start with the very first one, brand awareness, which often gets dismissed as like vanity metrics, right? Which is not entirely fair. Like, okay, if the only thing you're tracking is your brand awareness metrics, then yeah, you're probably missing a whole lot, because there's so much more to marketing, to the metrics that you can measure, the numbers you can measure when it comes to your marketing efforts. There's much more to it than these metrics. But at the same time, no one can buy from you unless they know who you are, right? If they don't know you exist, if they're not aware of your brand, they're not going to buy from you. So yes, you need to measure these metrics, but just don't rely on them exclusively, right? So I broke these up into two groups, social media and website. So I think social media is what we hear about a lot. It is a great way to get your brand out there, to let people know that you exist. So some examples of social media brand awareness metrics include followers, impressions, likes, and shares, right? So, and I think people talk a lot about like followers aren't buyers. Like, well, no, maybe not right away, but followers can turn into buyers, especially if you leverage them correctly and have a good social media strategy to do that. So those are your social media brand awareness metrics. Then you've got your website brand awareness metrics, which includes users, how many people visited your page, page views, the number of times your page was viewed, right? So those can be different. Then there's unique page views, right? So the number of times a single visitor viewed your page. So that's like, is it just the same person visiting your website over and over and over? Or is it, a bunch of people coming to your website and reading this awesome content that you've created? That's the kind of thing that you need to keep track of. Also keep track of new versus returning users. Again, that's that brand awareness. If you're getting new people to your website, that's awesome, because that means that you're generating more awareness of your brand. That's the whole idea, right? So keep track of that as well. Returning users are not bad either. I mean, again, you want people to keep coming back for your content and buying your products and services. So you do want some of those returning users, but you also want some new users. So make sure you've got a good balance there. As far as how to track these, social media makes it really easy, right? You can just look right on your profile and see how many followers do you have. If you go to your notifications, it'll tell you your likes and shares. For impressions, I think you need to have a business account in order for it to show you that. So keep that in mind when you're playing around with a business account versus your personal account. So that's one thing. And again, social media, it's right there. Super easy to track. Your website, you got to get Google Analytics. If you don't already have Google Analytics, what are you waiting for? You need to know how many people are coming to your site, how they're using your website, where that traffic is coming from, which I'll talk about a little bit later, right? So get Google Analytics if you've not already, or something similar, something that gives you a good breakdown of all of these metrics. Next up, we've got engagement metrics, right? So people are seeing your content. That's great. But if they're not engaging with your content, that means it's weak. It's not hitting home for them, or either they don't find it interesting, or it's something that your competition has covered to death. So they've seen this all already. So they're just going to keep scrolling until they find something more interesting. So some of the engagement metrics you can keep track of, again, going to break it down by social media versus website. So for social media, you got your CTR, which stands for click-through rate. How many people click from the social media post or your email, right? This is true for newsletters as well. And again, if you keep track of, if you use something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, it will tell you your click-through rate. So keep track of that. How many people are clicking through from your email to your website? Comments, shares, mentions on social media are all great examples of people engaging with your content, which is awesome. That's what we want, right? And it also improves your visibility, right? So it leads back to that brand awareness, because if people are commenting, sharing, and mentioning your content, then the algorithm takes notice of that and goes, oh, this must be valuable content. People like it. People are engaging with it. They're going to increase the visibility of that post across the board. So always a good idea. And you can always generate comments. I don't like just a blanket, like, hey, people, comment if you agree, or comment, share your thoughts in the comments. Ask specific questions. Ask, what was an example of something I had? I posted something about content marketing FAQs on LinkedIn, I think this morning, right? So then my question to get people to comment would be, what are some of your content marketing questions? What do you want to know about content marketing? It's a specific question. It's not general. It's something that really prompts people to answer and actually put something in the comments and engage with your post. So that's a tip for you. Website engagement metrics include your bounce rate. So that a bounce is when someone comes to your website and then leaves right away or almost immediately. A certain amount of that is not that, a certain amount of that is normal. So don't think that you should have a 0% bounce rate, because no one has a 0% bounce rate, right? But do keep track of what is a normal bounce rate for your industry. Honestly, it tends to be around 60-65%. I know that's frustrating, but that's the norm. But if it gets above that, try and play around and see what the issue is. The frustrating thing about bounce rate is that it has more to do, it can be affected by more than just your content. Your content can be part of it. Your page load speed can be another part of it. The design of your website, the layout of your website, is it easy for people to navigate? If any of those things are off, that can increase your bounce rate. So play around with it, keep track of all those different things, and absolutely play around with the design, play around with the content, one thing at a time. Don't change a bunch of different things and then see if your bounce rate changes, because if it does, you won't know what affected the change. So your bounce rate is one. Total time reading, or TTR, is the amount of time people are spending reading your content. And then there's the average time on site. This is similar to TTR, but instead of the total amount of time everyone is spending on reading your content, it gives you an idea of the average amount of time that individual users are spending with your content, as well as on your site as a whole, right? So average time on site is not just one page. It's, are they exploring your site? Are they looking at other pieces of content? And again, Google Analytics can tell you all this. Inbound links, again, check to see where your traffic is coming from when they come to your website. Are they coming from your social media campaigns? And if so, which social media channels? You need to know that to know what's getting the best results. So for example, you might get a really high engagement on, let's say, LinkedIn, but most of your clicks are coming through from Facebook, right? Who knew? So keep that in mind. That's why you have to track all of these different things, because those brand awareness metrics might be really great over on one channel, but the engagement metrics can be higher on another channel. So check to make sure where your content is coming from and what's really generating great results for your business. Next, we've got your SEO, right? Your search engine optimization metrics. Is your SEO strategy working? Everyone obviously wants to rank on the first page of Google for all of the keywords, right? Pick some keywords, right? Instead of trying to be like, well, I targeted all these keywords, so I should be ranking for all of them. Pick a few keywords that you really want your website to target across the board, and see how you rank for those. Don't just Google those keywords and see where you rank. Certainly don't Google the name of your business and see where you rank, because Google knows that you own that business or that you work for that business. So it's going to show you that business because it goes, well, here's what you're looking for. So of course it's going to show up on the first page of Google. And even if you start searching some of those keywords that you're trying to rank for, you've probably searched them before. And again, Google knows you work for that company, so it's going to show you that company. What you need to do is use an SEO tool. My favorite is SERPstat, to check your search engine ranking position, or SERP. This gives you an objective view of your ranking. This is overall, how are you ranking for this particular keyword? So check that. Check your backlinks. Where are your backlinks coming from? There are two ways, a couple things you need to keep track of with your backlinks. First of all, if you have a link building strategy, you are trying to get links from high quality sites, check to make sure that those are working and that you've got traffic coming from those sites. If people are linking to your site even when you don't ask them to, and they're high quality sites, that is awesome. That means you're building that brand awareness. You've established yourself as an authority in your industry. People are using you as a referral source, and Google's going to take notice of that. So that's one thing you need to keep track of. You also need to keep track of spammy backlinks. If there is a low quality website that does not rank at all for any keywords ever, or ranks super low, right? That's not a good site. Google does not like that site, and Google assumes that like hangs out with like. So if you've got some of those websites linking back to yours, keep track of that and disavow those links. Again, you're going to need a tool like SERPstat to disavow those links and tell Google, that no, we're not associated with this. We don't want to be associated with this. Disavow this link. The link will still work. If there's legit traffic coming to your website from that link, it's still going to work. But it's not going to count towards your SEO. So that's how that works. You'll notice I did not include domain authority in this list because I think domain authority is overrated, and it doesn't actually come from Google. It comes from an SEO company selling a domain authority tool. So your domain authority is measured very heavily on the number and quality of backlinks that you have. So if you are tracking your backlinks and you're tracking your SERPs, as far as SEO goes, that's really all you need to know. You need to know if you're ranking for certain keywords, right? That's it. That's the bottom line. So when people say check your domain authority, I think you're better off checking your SERP, because that's what's going to tell you whether or not your strategy is effective. Your domain authority will tell you whether or not you're effective at doing something that another company wants you to do that is not Google, which, yeah, a lot of people look at that, and a lot of people measure domain authority, but it's just useless. If you know how you're ranking for your keywords, that's everything you need to know. And then keep track of those backlinks. Lead generation metrics, right? So once people know who you are, they've engaged with your content, you should be able to turn those leads into customers. That means you need to have a compelling call to action, or CTA, attached to every piece of your marketing content that you produce and publish. It also requires you to measure whether and which of those CTAs are having an effect, and if so, how much of an effect. So some examples of lead generation metrics include newsletter subscribers, webinar attendees, book sales, downloaded PDFs, click-through rate. Again, that click-through rate is most likely going to be from your email campaigns, but if you're running ads on social media, you might have a click-through rate there. So you're going to want to check that number. And finally, last but certainly not least is your sales enablement metrics. So finally, we get to the money, right? So no, marketing is not all about sales, but at the end of the day, it should drive sales, right? Eventually, you should be able to get people to buy from you because of all the awesome content you've been putting out there. So some of the metrics you can measure to make sure that your marketing is leading to sales is the number of requests that you get from your website. And again, that type of request is going to vary depending on your business. So it could be a request for a demo. It could be a request just to have a conversation with you. And then you or someone on your team can turn that conversation into a sales conversation. You can leverage that into a sale. So you need to measure where those requests are coming from if they consumed certain pieces of marketing content before reaching out to you. Actual sales. If you're selling something directly off of your website, you need to know what percentage of people clicked that buy now button on your website, the number or the percentage. I think the percentage will give you a better indication of how strong your content is, right? You might only have a few people clicking that button, but if you don't have a ton of traffic going to that page yet, then a low number doesn't mean anything. It could be a low number, but a high percentage. So if you've got a low traffic number, you just got to work on those. Go back to the SEO to get that number up, and make sure you keep that percentage up. Sales cycle length. Some industries have a longer buyer journey than others. There's not much we can do about that. I have my sales cycle is pretty long. I tend to get to know people for a while, and they consume a bunch of my content here and on LinkedIn before reaching out to me. So, but if your content is successful and it educates your prospects, convinces them they need your product or service, you can shorten the sales cycle by answering their questions before they even ask, right? Some people might be like, or addressing their objections, right? Oh, that might work for so-and-so, but it's not going to work for me for these reasons. If you have content that addresses those objections and says, actually, this will work for you, here's why, you can shorten that sales cycle. So again, keep track of that, how long your sales cycle is. If your sales cycle starts getting shorter, that means your marketing is working. Now, how do you know? We just talked about a lot of different sales or a lot of different content marketing metrics, right? So how do you know which ones you should be measuring? It all comes down to your goals. What is it you are trying to achieve? And your goals can be broken up into overarching goals. What is the big main goal? Some people might call it the big hairy goal, right? What is that big thing that you are trying to accomplish in your business overall? It could be a 1-year goal. It could be a 5 to 10-year goal, right? Long-term, what is it you're trying to achieve? And then you should break it up into smaller goals, right? So each campaign has a goal just for that campaign. Obviously, that should tie into your overarching goal, but you want to track each and every one of those. Is each marketing campaign achieving its result, achieving its goals? And then if so, is that leading to, is that helping you reach your overarching goal? Because if it's not, then you might want to look again at those smaller goals, at those marketing campaign goals, and reassess and see which ones, if there's a different goal you can reach or a different goal you can set that would be more effective to get you towards reaching your overarching goals. So that is it. That is all my tips for today. Again, get those goals and then kind of work backwards towards, if this is your goal, what is it that will what do you need to know to get people to reach out to you to buy those products and services so that you can reach that overarching goal? So that's it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Otherwise, have a great week. And and you can find me not only here on LinkedIn. I am responsive to comments and whatnot, but also my website, for those who don't know, is AV, as in my initials, Allison Verhalen. That is avwritingservices.com, and my email address is info@avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great week and happy blogging, everyone.